I caught her in our living room, legs tangled with a man who cleans septic tanks for a living. I wish I was lying. I stood there frozen, keys still in my hand, watching the woman I was supposed to marry laugh like I never existed. What happened next? Let's just say this story doesn't end how she thought it would. I was supposed to be at work. That's the only reason she felt bold enough to do it in our home. I had left the office early. Boss said it was slow and told me to take the rest of the day off. I thought I'd surprise her, maybe grab lunch, watch a movie together. Something nice. We'd been a little distant lately, and I figured a small gesture might help. I even stopped by her favorite bakery to get those ridiculous, overpriced cupcakes she loved. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. At first I thought maybe she went out, but her purse was on the table. Then I noticed her heels, kicked off by the front door, one tipped over on its side. That's when I heard it. A low moan. At first I thought she was watching something on her phone, but then I heard a man's voice. I didn't want to believe it. I swear I didn't. I crept down the hall, hoping, praying, trying to tell myself there was some other explanation. But the closer I got to the living room, the louder it got. Laughter. What sounds? Him grunting. And her, calling his name. Duke. That was the moment something inside me broke. He was sitting on our couch, pants around his ankles, and she was on top of him, completely gone in it. She didn't even see me at first. I stood there, mouth open, arm limp, the bakery bag sliding from my fingers and hitting the floor with a thud. That got her attention. She turned her head, still straddling him, eyes locking with mine like it was nothing. No panic. No shame. Just surprise. And then, she laughed. Wow. You actually came home early. That's a first, she said, brushing her hair back from her face like I just caught her doing yoga. Duke didn't even bother covering up. He looked up at me with this smug, greasy grin. The guy was a sewer technician, literally works inside drainage tunnels, and he was in my house. On my couch. With my fiancée. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My legs felt like jelly. My chest burned. I backed away, stumbled down the hall, out the door, barely able to breathe. She didn't come after me. I heard her laughing as I left. And that laugh, it's still echoing in my head. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept thinking, why him? Why there? Why me? But that wasn't even the worst part. Not yet. I didn't leave her. Not right away. I know how that makes me sound. Weak. Pathetic. And you'd be right. I stayed. I stayed because some part of me wanted to believe it was a mistake, that she'd say sorry, cry, explain it away, blame the alcohol, the stress, her childhood, anything. I was ready to believe anything. Because I loved her like a fool. And fools always wait for explanations. She gave me one. 3 days later. Over dinner. Except it wasn't an apology. It was a performance. She sat across from me like we were negotiating a new contract. No guilt in her eyes. Just cold curiosity. She even smiled when I brought it up. You're still upset about that? She asked, stabbing her salad like this conversation was beneath her. I couldn't believe it. You cheated on me, I said, voice cracking. In our house. She tilted her head. You mean Duke? Oh please. Don't act like you were some perfect angel. You work late, you're boring, and you haven't touched me in weeks. What did you expect? I couldn't respond. My throat was locked tight. My eyes were burning. She just kept going. You should actually thank me, she said, grinning. At least I found someone who knows what he's doing. I think that was the first time I actually felt something inside me snap. But not anger. Just nothing. Numbness. Cold, terrifying numbness. And then she laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A real, gut-deep laugh. Like I was the punchline to a joke she'd been telling her friends for months. I mean, come on. You actually thought I was loyal, she said. God, you're so naive. That's what I always liked about you. You're just so trusting. It's cute. Like a stray puppy. I stood up. Couldn't take another second. She didn't even flinch. As I turned to leave, she called out behind me. You know what your problem is? You think loyalty is love. It's not. It's just convenience. That night, I packed a small bag. I didn't even know where I was going. I just drove. Slept in the car in a Walmart parking lot. My head was full of static. I wanted to scream, but couldn't. I wanted to cry, but I'd already done too much of that. I should have left her for good right then. I should have blocked her number, cut her off, burned every photo. But I didn't. I still thought maybe, just maybe, there was something left to save. Until I saw her the next day, walking out of our front door with Duke again, holding his hand. She looked me right in the eyes. and winked. That's when I knew this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't about love. This was a game to her. And I had been losing, but not for much longer. I stopped crying. It didn't happen all at once. But somewhere between watching her wink at me while holding hands with a man who unclogs toilets for a living and sleeping in the backseat of my own car for the third night in a row, I stopped crying. I started thinking. Not with rage. Not with desperation. With precision. If she could humiliate me so easily, what did that say about me? That I was weak? That I deserved it? That I was disposable? No. She picked the wrong man to laugh at. I knew I couldn't fight her in the way people usually do. She was confident, sharp-tongued, manipulative. I'd seen it in action for years, how she'd twist a story to make herself the victim, how she'd charm friends and strangers alike until they forgot there was another side to anything. So I didn't try to argue. I didn't try to defend myself. I went silent. I went still. And I started planning. First, I made sure everything with the house was legally mine. She'd never cared about the paperwork. I always handled the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance. One quiet visit to the county clerk's office confirmed it. She was just a tenant in my home. Then I started separating our finances. She didn't notice. She never checked the accounts. I opened a new one in my name only. Transferred the savings bit by bit. Closed joint credit cards with quiet emails and polite customer service calls. Next, I reached out to my cousin Troy. He works in pest control now, but he used to be a private investigator. I told him I needed help. I didn't explain why. Just said I wanted to know everything. Who she was seeing, where they went, what she said when I wasn't around. He agreed. No questions asked. Within 2 days, he had photos. Her and Duke at some sleazy motel off the highway. Her handing him cash. Her laughing as he kissed her neck in the parking lot of a gas station. I saved everything. Then I changed the locks. I did it while she was at one of her yoga retreats, which I now knew meant sleeping in the back of a sewage truck. I removed her key from the hidden spot under the porch, took all her clothes and boxed them neatly. Labeled each one with the name of the guy she'd cheated on me with, starting with Duke. I left them stacked on the driveway like garbage waiting for pickup. She texted me when she got back. Why won't my key work? I didn't respond. Where are my things? Still nothing. 10 minutes later, she sent a video. She was laughing, holding a bottle of wine, Duke in the background yelling something crude. She spun the camera to her face and said, "You think this bothers me? You think I care? You'll be begging me back in a week." I saved that video too, because she had no idea. No clue what I was building behind the silence. No idea that the weak man she mocked was turning into something she'd never seen before. A man with a plan. She always underestimated me. That was her mistake. The first blow had to be clean, controlled, but unforgettable. I waited a full week after locking her out. Ignored her messages. Watched from my car as she came by twice, tried the door, screamed into the ring cam. Duke stood behind her both times, arms crossed, dirty shirt rolled halfway up his gut like he thought he was tough. They didn't know I was watching from 2 blocks down, parked behind tinted windows. Then came the perfect moment. It was a Friday. She was scheduled to attend a work event, one of those networking mixers her firm liked to hold at upscale lounges to pretend their interns weren't underpaid. She posted about it on her Instagram story. Some picture of her in a red dress, captioned boss mode. I dressed in a pressed suit, showed up at the same lounge about 30 minutes after the event started. But I wasn't alone. I brought Emily. Emily used to be her friend. But things change fast when people see who the real villain is. Emily always had a soft spot for me. She messaged me a week after the breakup, said she was sorry, asked how I was holding up. We talked. A lot. She told me things I hadn't known, things I needed. So I invited her to the lounge. We walked in holding hands. Heads turned. I spotted Sarah immediately, laughing at the bar with 2 coworkers. When she saw us, her face froze. For half a second, she forgot to blink. Then the smile returned. But it wasn't real. It was stiff. Masked. She walked over. Well, she said, arms crossed, voice sugary. "This is new." Emily smiled. "Hi, Sarah." I nodded. "Didn't think we'd run into you here." Sarah glanced at Emily's hand in mine, then back to me. "So this is your revenge, huh?" she said, tilting her head. "Cute." "No revenge," I replied. "Just moving on. Like you said I should." The look in her eyes cracked for just a second. I saw it, something flinch. She wasn't expecting that. She thought I'd stay in the shadows, lick my wounds, watch her from the outside and crumble quietly. But here I was, with someone she used to trust. And I looked good. Then came the second part of the blow. I took out my phone, opened my photo album, and tapped one image. A picture of her and Duke kissing in the parking lot. Time-stamped. I held it just low enough that only she could see. Her breath caught. "What is that?" she whispered. "Evidence," I said calmly. "You'll be getting served soon." I turned to walk away, Emily on my arm. Sarah didn't follow. She just stood there, her drink trembling in her hand, surrounded by people who had no idea her world had started to tilt. That was the first time I saw real fear in her. And I wasn't done. Not even close. I thought I had her cornered. I really did. After the lounge, she went quiet for 3 days. No calls. No texts. No screaming at the door. I started to believe she was reeling, maybe even giving up. I should have known better. It started with my boss calling me into his office Monday morning. He didn't look angry, just uncomfortable. "I got a strange email this morning," he said. "About you." He turned his monitor so I could see. It was anonymous. Of course it was. But the subject line was brutal. Employee conduct concern. Robert M. Inappropriate behavior and mental instability. It had screenshots attached. Personal texts. Out-of-context photos of me in bars. Comments twisted to look unhinged. Even one message I'd sent to Emily joking about going nuclear. It made me sound dangerous. Sarah had kept everything. Even before I caught her cheating. She'd been storing ammo for months. Maybe years. I felt my chest tighten. "We're not taking action," my boss said carefully, "but we have to file this. HR's doing a wellness check, just routine. You understand." I nodded, but inside, everything burned. This wasn't just petty. She was coming for my life. Later that day, I tried logging into our old shared cloud drive to access some of the wedding contracts we'd signed under both names. Password didn't work. I checked my backup email. Locked. Then I got a message. From her. "Next time you try to humiliate me in public, remember what I know about you." You want war? Fine. Just know I play dirty. I didn't respond. But my hands were shaking. And it got worse. 2 nights later, I came back to my apartment and found an envelope shoved under the door. Inside, copies of my text messages with Emily, private ones. Stuff that could easily be spun the wrong way. Stuff that could ruin her if it got leaked at her job. On the back of one page, in Sarah's handwriting, was a single line. "Pick a side, Emily, before I pick for you." Emily called me an hour later, crying. Said she couldn't lose her job. Said Sarah had messaged her boss anonymously with evidence of misconduct. Sarah wasn't just playing defense. She was nuking the field. I told Emily to step back. Protect herself. She did. I don't blame her. Sarah had taken my support system and flipped it. She had lawyers, charm, screenshots, and absolutely no shame. I'd landed a punch, but she knocked me flat. And for a minute, I didn't know if I could get back up. But then I remembered something. A file. One she didn't know I had. I never meant to keep the file. I made it back when things were good, when I thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. It was a simple backup. Bank statements. Shared receipts. Text logs. Voice memos from when we were planning the wedding, talking about joint investments, even her career goals. I opened it now, hands trembling but focused. There it was, her secret bank account. She didn't know I had the login. I only got access because, years ago, she asked me to transfer money while she was driving and gave me the password over speakerphone. I had saved it without thinking. I typed it in. Access granted. The balance was bigger than I expected. Much bigger. Tens of thousands. And not just from her salary. There were deposits. Random ones. Spaced out over months. From multiple names. I recognized one, a plumbing business in another town. Duke's employer. Another was from a cash cleaning service. It hit me like ice water. She wasn't just cheating. She was getting paid for it. I downloaded everything. Every single transaction. I built a spreadsheet, marked every suspicious deposit, matched it to her location history, using the Google Maps timeline from her old synced phone, another account she forgot I had access to. It painted a picture, one she couldn't talk her way out of. And I wasn't done. I printed it all. I made copies. One set went to a lawyer, a quiet, methodical guy who didn't ask many questions but promised to file a formal fraud complaint if needed. Another copy I mailed to her employer, addressed not to HR, but directly to her managing partner. No signature. No return address. Just a flash drive and a single note. "You should know who's representing your firm." Then I waited. It didn't take long. 3 days later, Sarah called me 23 times in one night. I didn't pick up. Then she sent a voice message. Her voice was shaking. What did you do? You think you're clever? You think this is going to scare me? Next morning, I checked her work website. Her profile was gone. By afternoon, I got a knock on my door. She was standing there. Hair a mess. Eyes red. No makeup. No Duke. I just want to talk, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Just stared at her. Cold. She started crying. You don't understand what you've done. I think I do, I said. You're unemployed. Publicly disgraced. Probably facing a tax audit next. She covered her mouth. Gasped. I stepped forward. Lowered my voice. That's what happens when you try to destroy someone who loved you. I shut the door in her face. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. But I should have known. It wasn't over yet. I thought I'd broken her. I really did. Seeing her like that on my doorstep, makeup smeared, trembling, humiliated, it felt like checkmate. She was done. But I forgot one thing. When someone like Sarah loses everything, they don't surrender. They set fires. The next blow didn't come from her directly. It came from Child Protective Services. Yeah, you heard me right. A woman from CPS showed up at my apartment at 9 a.m. sharp. Said they'd received an anonymous report claiming I'd been verbally abusive toward minors, unfit for shared housing, and possibly unstable due to substance abuse. I don't have kids. I don't even live near any. But the report mentioned a live-in niece I supposedly yelled at and neglected. I stood there stunned, trying to make sense of it, until I remembered my sister's daughter stayed with me for 3 days last month while she was on a trip. Sarah knew that. She also knew where I kept the spare key. The woman was polite but firm. We're required to follow up. Would you mind answering a few questions? I answered every one. I showed her the empty second bedroom, the untouched guest towels, the pictures my niece had drawn while staying here, happy, smiley, childlike. The case was closed 3 days later with no findings. But the damage? It was done. My neighbors saw. My landlord heard. My HR rep at work got an anonymous tip asking why the company employed someone under CPS investigation. I knew who sent it. And I knew why. Because I'd won the last round. And now she was playing a new game. Not trying to beat me. Trying to ruin me. Emily reached out again, not to talk, but to warn me. She called my job again, she whispered. This time she told them I was having an inappropriate relationship with you while you were still engaged. My boss gave me a warning, Rob. I'm so sorry, I said. I don't want an apology, she said. I want her to burn. But Sarah wasn't burning. She was morphing. No more red dresses and wine glasses. Now she was the victim. The harassed ex. The woman, hunted by an unstable man. She even filed for a restraining order. In the filing, she claimed I was stalking her, harassing her, sending threats. She even attached that photo of us at the lounge, twisting it as proof I'd followed her to a private work function. My lawyer told me to stay calm. She's building a case, he warned. One false move, and she'll bury you. I was losing ground. Fast. And all I could think was, how do you fight someone who has no conscience? I wanted to crush her. But I couldn't do it recklessly. She had already tried to paint me as unstable. One slip, one angry voicemail, one wrong message, and she'd win. Permanently. So I stopped reacting. I went quiet again. And I started working in the background. The restraining order she filed? I challenged it. Legally, formally. My lawyer and I gathered everything. The lounge footage from security cameras, screenshots of her texting me first, recordings of her showing up at my apartment. The CPS visit? We got documentation it was cleared. The anonymous tip to my job? Traced to a burner account created on a device located at her gym. But the real move? That came from someone I never expected, Duke's wife. Yeah, turns out the sewer guy was married. Her name was Melanie. I didn't even know she existed until she showed up at my door. You're Robert, she asked. I think we've been played by the same woman. She wasn't wrong. She'd found receipts in Duke's truck. Hotel charges. Gifts. Then she found photos. One of them was the exact picture I had Sarah in Duke's lap in that filthy parking lot. We sat down and traded war stories. We talked for hours. And then we made a deal. Melanie gave me everything. Photos. Texts. Even a short voice recording of Sarah telling Duke she was milking that loser for all he's worth, and just needs to finish off the financials before cutting him loose. She called me the charity case. I had everything I needed now, and I used it all. I forwarded the voice recording to Sarah's lawyer anonymously. I sent the photos and receipts to her parents, packaged neatly in a folder labeled, "In case you're wondering where your daughter's rent money is going." But the final blow was this. I posted a thread online, not ranting, not emotional, just facts, documents, dates, audio, a detailed timeline of what happened, presented with pure logic. No names, no faces, just a story. And it exploded. People figured out who it was. Someone tagged her old employer. Then someone else found her fitness blog. Then her fake wellness coaching page. All of it collapsed within 48 hours. She messaged me 6 times. I didn't answer. Then one more message came in. "I know what you did. I hope you're proud." I was. I finally slept like a human again. And for the first time in months. I wasn't afraid of her. But I should have been. Because what she did next, it almost ended everything. It started with silence. No calls. No emails. No late-night voicemails pretending to cry. Nothing. For a while, I thought maybe she'd given up. But Sarah never gives up. She just waits. The ambush came quietly. A letter. Folded. No return address. It was from her lawyer. Inside, a court summons. She was suing me. Defamation. Emotional distress. Damages to reputation. Career sabotage. The number she was asking for? $250,000. I stared at the page, jaw clenched, heart racing. My hands actually went numb. The ground didn't just shift beneath me, it collapsed. I brought it to my lawyer. He looked over it and sighed. "She's smart," he said. "She's not trying to win. She's trying to drain you." And it worked. Over the next 4 weeks, I spent almost everything I had on legal prep. Motions. Statements. Documentation. It was death by paperwork. She knew I wasn't wealthy. She knew I didn't have a team. She knew how to outlast me. And people started turning. Not everyone, but enough. Mutual friends who once sent me support stopped replying to my texts. Some even posted vague things online, talking about toxic exes who can't move on. She was flipping the narrative. Again. And it worked. Again. One morning, I woke up to an eviction notice taped to my apartment door. Not because I missed rent, but because the building manager got a complaint about me being a threat to the safety of female residents. No proof. No hearing. Just gone. She filed a formal complaint with my job's ethics board, too. Claimed I'd used confidential information against her. My boss didn't even look me in the eye when he let me go. In 1 month, she took everything I'd rebuilt. She won. She stood on the ashes of what I had left and smiled from a distance. And then came the mistake. She posted a story, just a few seconds long. A glass of champagne, a skyline, and a voice in the background, Duke. Still around. Still dumb. He was laughing at something. Slurred. And then he said, "Man, if the IRS ever looks into that thing you set up with your cousin, you're done for." I watched that story 10 times. My heart started racing again, but not from panic this time. Because I finally had it. The bud. That one thread I could pull, the one that could unravel her entire life. She had just confessed, publicly, to financial fraud. Something deep. Something traceable. And she didn't know I'd seen it. Not yet. It took me 3 days to verify what I'd heard in that video. 3 days of digging. Quiet. Surgical moves. A burner laptop, public Wi-Fi, encrypted accounts. Duke's voice wasn't just drunk noise. It was truth. I traced the setup. An LLC created under a fake name tied to her cousin. Shell deposits. Phantom consulting income. Everything led back to Sarah. It was an elaborate tax evasion scheme. And it wasn't new. It went back almost 4 years. It wasn't just shady. It was federal. I made a file. Not like before. This wasn't for drama or internet revenge. This was real. I consulted a tax attorney under a sealed NDA. He reviewed the records, checked the trail, and sat back slowly in his chair. "You could send this to the IRS whistleblower line," he said. "They'll investigate. Might take a few months, but she'd be finished. Financially, legally, professionally, and criminally?" I asked. "Best case? Huge fines and penalties. Worst case?" He nodded. "Prison time." I walked home in silence, holding the file in my backpack like it was radioactive. Because in a way, it was. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was destruction. And then it happened. She showed up at my door. No warning. No threats. Just Sarah. She looked smaller. Pale. Her hair was tied back like she hadn't slept. She had no makeup on, no mask, just a trembling woman with nothing left. I know, she whispered. About the file. About what you have. I didn't say a word. She dropped to her knees, hands clasped, tears streaming. I deserve everything. I know. But please, I'm begging you, don't send it. I stood there, silent, watching the woman who'd humiliated me, destroyed me, lied to my face, and laughed as she did it, cry on the floor like a broken child. You tried to ruin me, I said. I know, she sobbed. And I failed. But this would end my life. Please. I pulled the file from my bag, held it out. She stared at it like it might explode. And then, slowly, I let it drop into the trash bin beside me. She gasped. Why? She whispered. I looked her dead in the eyes. Because I don't want to become what you are. She fell apart right there on the floor. I walked past her, out the door, into the fresh air. For the first time in months, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't angry. I was free. And before I left, I turned back and asked her one thing. What would you have done in my place?